Well, on Friday, the Russian foreign minister said that Moscow would not make guesses on the outcome of Friday's meeting, adding that Russia's position remains clear and unambiguous. But he also said that he hopes the Alaska summit will build upon what he described as positive changes between the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the Russian president last week. Take a listen.
We never anticipate ahead of time. We know that we have our arguments, we have a clear position, and we will explain it. A lot has already been done during the visits of Special Envoy Stephen Witkoff. President Vladimir Putin spoke about this, and Witkoff spoke on behalf of President Trump. I hope that we will continue this very useful conversation tomorrow.
Well, for more analysis then on this summit, the context surrounding it, we're going to cross now to Anthony Gardner, former U.S. ambassador to the European Union under Barack Obama. Thank you so much today, for joining us today, Anthony. So, to start, to the extent that Ukraine was not invited, nor were any European leaders, can this be framed as anything other than a victory for Russia, especially as Volodymyr Zelensky has described it?
Well, indeed, I think it's a mistake for the president. I think it's premature. The meeting is occurring today is premature because Vladimir Putin thinks he is winning. And in fact, the Russian troops are making advances, as well publicized, every day. They have a significant advantage on munitions, significant advantage in manpower. So to have a meeting at a time that Putin thinks he's winning, and at a time that he continues to make maximalist demands, I think is a mistake. It's also a mistake because Putin, being very smart and having seen many rodeos, so to speak, in his time, has made apparently an economic offer to Trump, which is very smart. We'll open up the Russian market to you, your companies, even perhaps your family. And this seems to me to be an attempt to buy him out. So it's too early. This meeting is happening too early, and it's a bad sign that Zelensky is not there. Apparently, the leaders are meeting without anyone in the room, at least in the first meeting, which is also, I think, quite extraordinary. It's happened before, but I can tell you, even as an ambassador, I was not permitted to have meetings without note takers.
That's really interesting what you just said there about potential economic leverage that Vladimir Putin could use over Donald Trump, all the more so because neither Russia nor Ukraine's non-negotiables have changed. So I did want to ask you from a diplomatic perspective, as someone who has been involved in these types of events before, what's the point then in holding a face-to-face summit if that's the case, if the non-negotiables on either side have not changed?
Well, this is not the first time that a U.S. president has overestimated his, not only his leverage, but his ability to understand foreign leaders, particularly Russian. Remember Bush himself, who said he looked into the soul of Putin and believed that he can understand what he wanted to achieve. I think this is a mistake. Trump wants a deal at any cost. I don't particularly think he cares about the future of Ukraine as a prosperous, independent, democratic country. The hope is that this minerals deal was signed, and therefore the United States has some stake in a country called Ukraine and the raw materials that lie underground. But Trump clearly wants a deal. That's his motivation.
For much of this war, Europe has seemingly been a step behind, always reacting to the latest moves from Russia or the United States, but rarely initiating bold diplomatic action. What do you make of Europe's backseat role since Donald Trump's return to the White House? Is it a lack of ability to convince Vladimir Putin to change course, or is the European Union trying to appease Trump on a variety of other issues in which it has stakes?
Well, I think that Europe is playing the hand that it has, and probably pretty well. Look, they've been very outspoken in calling the president many times and saying, "Look, these are the contours of a deal that could amount to a lasting, just deal." So they are playing their hand, and after all, it is Europe that will continue to bear the lion's share going forward of both military and financial aid. Trump has made it very clear that Europe will have to pay for military assistance going forward. Europe has said it will do that. And Europe is most exposed, obviously, from a deal. particularly a bad deal. So look, they are making the case, I think, strongly. They've clearly said we're going to continue to spend more on defense, providing guarantees to Ukraine, not soldiers on the ground, but guarantees to Ukraine in terms of future aid. So they're doing what they can, but it's not an easy situation.
I mean, if Europe were to act in a coordinated way, if all 27 members were to really be able to find common ground on this issue, do you think that there is more that it could have done to impose its presence?
It's very difficult because Donald Trump doesn't have much regard, if any, for the European Union, and not much regard for Europe, European member states as a whole. Perhaps for a few he does, but so that's what makes it very difficult for Europe to make its views known. Europe probably should have acted sooner, as the United States should have, in providing military aid faster, earlier in the war. But that's water under the bridge. I think that most member states, with a few exceptions, have expressed full support for Zelensky and continuing this war, no matter what the cost. But the reality is, look, if by some sad chance Trump decides, you know what, this is a great deal that Putin's put on the table, I'm going to cut off all aid to Ukraine, it will be very hard for Europe to continue alone.
As a final question for you, sir, speaking of this idea of acting sooner, Donald Trump has often blamed the war in Ukraine on Obama and Joe Biden. Obviously, worth mentioning that that's not the only thing that he has blamed on his predecessors. But you being someone who worked for the Obama administration, do you think that there are things that it could have done differently to prevent what we see playing out today?
No, by the MAGA team, there's very little that we could have done. I mean, the argument at times is, I find shameful to say that we provoked the Russian bear into doing what it did. That's not true at all. There was the Maidan Revolution, an attempt by brave Ukrainians to say that we want to join the Western family of nations. We vote for democracy. We vote for transparency, a country that has been very corrupt and still dealing with that issue. And it was only correct that we allowed them to make moves in that direction, not only EU, but otherwise. And if that's the argument, I would say it's shameful because it would have applied to the Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, and to Eastern Europe. And it was right that the United States supported the integration of those countries into the Western family. So no, very little we could have done. However, my last point here is that we could have done more after the invasion of 2014, and I was there. It took us a long time, at least 7 months, to move beyond meaningless travel bans and asset freezes, to finally move to sectoral sanctions, economic sanctions. And even then, it was halting and it was not enough. So I do think that we can bear some blame here. Having said that, the reason that the sanctions that we've seen over the last couple of years have been more effective is we've had muscle memory. We've looked back at 2014 to 15. We said we had all these options on the table. We took some of them, but here are the ones that are really effective. So it was not all for naught.
Former U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Anthony Gardner, thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.